Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Ezern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that road line on the hot dish highway. Beside the western water tank, one cold November day, inside an empty boxcar, a dying hobo lay. His partner stood beside him with low and drooping head, listening to the last words that the dying hobo said. I'm going to a better land where everything is bright, where the handouts grow on bushes and you sleep out every night, where you don't have to work at all or even change your socks. Little streams of whiskey come trickling down the rocks. Tell my sweetheart back in Denver that no more her face I'll view. Tell her I'll jump that fast train that I'm going through. Tell her not to weep for me, no tears in her eyes must lurk, for I'm going to a land where I don't have to work. I'm going to a better land where everything is bright, where the handouts grow on bushes and you sleep out every night, where you don't have to work at all or even change your socks. And little streams of whiskey come trickling down the rocks. I hear her whistling, I must catch her on the fly. Farewell, partner, I must leave you. Hell, it ain't so hard to die. Hobo stopped, his head fell back, he sung in last refrain. His partner swiped his hat and shoes and jumped the eastbound train. I'm a-going to a better land where everything is bright, where the handouts grow on bushes and you sleep out every night, where you don't have to work at all or even change your socks. And little streams of whiskey come a-trickling down the rocks. Little streams of whiskey come trickling down the rocks. You may have heard that one on the Willow Creek Folk School in a previous episode. The Hobo's Lament, or the Dying Hobo. It goes under either title and sometimes others. And the version I'm singing is one picked up from North Dakota, in fact. Appeared in Fargo Forum, I believe, in 1910. At that time, it was flying up and down the plains, appearing everywhere. The song's a little bit older than that, so here to report a little bit about its origins. Of course, I've got an affection for this song. I identify it with Carl Sandburg, the poet, that rock star poet of the early 20th century who attracted thousands and thousands. And after reading from his poetry and reminiscing a little bit, he'd get out a little buck guitar, not a big dreadnought like this, with nylon strings, and he'd start singing, I Ride in Old Paint, or Beside a western water tank one cold November day, and people just ate that up. Carl Sandburg. He was a phenomenon. But he didn't know really where that song came from, you know. He just picked it up. Somebody gave it to him, told him about it. I decided to look into a little bit, where does that song come from? And the earliest text I can come up with is from Visalia, California in 1894. February of 1894, The Dying Hobo appeared in the Daily Delta of Visalia, California. And it's interesting the way this song gets reported into the papers as folklore. I'm parsing my words there a little bit here. In this case, in this first instance, and so I'll submit this is the earliest known text of a classic Western ballad. It's attributed to one H.M. Delaney, and with this note from the editor of the paper there in Visalia. The composer of the above is an inmate of the county jail and is serving a 90-day sentence for vagrancy. All right, so this is a definite attribution of authorship. Do I believe that? Sort of. But so I'm going to pronounce that the earliest known text, but not necessarily the original text, but it's the best we got at this point as to origins. Well, and then the problem is the same newspaper comes out a few months later, February of 1895, with another version of The Dying Hobo, and it says, the following verses were written upon the walls of a water tank at a lonely railroad station in Arizona. The author was probably one of those unfortunate men who, by a series of mishaps, had fallen unwillingly into the army of the wandering unemployed. And then this one is signed just Wandering Willie, which I'm not sure I don't believe it's Willie Nelson in 1895. Willie's old, but he's not that old. Yeah, but Wandering Willie, 1895, there's another attribution. Well, May of 1895, the paper up in Sacramento, the Record Union, put out its own text of it. Okay, now what I want you to notice is it's a found text. It's nobody goes to the editor and say, I wrote this. It's always somebody, they found it. It was left behind by a hobo. In this case, the influence of spring is not lost on the hobo. It even moves him to poetry. The other day, the following lines were found in a cell at the city prison that had just been vacated by some tramps. It is entitled The Dying Hobo. Another interesting tale of provenance. Well, I'm not done. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. And we get down to, here's another one, but I'm looking for still one more. There we go. Clearback, this is the second known reference, but it doesn't give a text. But here's the Fresno paper in California, June of 1894. A day or two, a tramp poet, it says. A day or two ago, Cash Thomas, the high chief overseer of the rock pile, was handed a paper by one of the vagrants under his supervision. The young man seemed to be greatly agitated, and there was a mingled expression of fear and bashfulness on his sunburned visage. Thomas opened the paper, and after reading a line or two, came to the conclusion it was poetry. The composition is entitled A Hobo Dream, and it is as follows. I guess it does give a text. Well, let me bring this to the prairies. We started in Fargo, and let's go to another part of the prairies with a text from May of 1912, with the heading The Railroad Rattle, and it's attributed to one G.H. Saunders, who I checked out. This is a district superintendent of the Santa Fe Railroad in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And the paper and the text is given in the Guthrie Leader. Let's just take a look at this one. 'Twas at a western water tank one cold December day, within an empty boxcar, the dying hobo lay. His partner stood beside him with sad and drooping head, and silently listened while the dying hobo said, I'm going, said the weary, to a land that's fair and bright, where the weather sleep outdoors at night, where the handouts grow on bushes and the houses have no locks, and little streams of alcohol come a-trickling down the rocks. Well, always those little streams of alcohol and a basic scenario, but a little bit different details. The houses that have no locks. And now we come to where they really diverge. Tell my kid back in Chicago, and once more his face you see, and I'm thinking of him always. Tell him not to weep for me. Tell them that I am dying, game in his eyes, no fear must lurk, for I am going to a land that's fair, 10,000 miles from work. Isn't that a touching end to that version? Usually these Hobo's Lament songs, there's a sweetheart somewhere. It's Louise on Clark Street or something like that. Often a name, a first name, and then a street where she'll be found in Fresno, in Denver, or somewhere. But in this case, a son. Yeah, a son who should know that his old man, as he says, died game. Well, a lot of versions of that song out there. I have not tracked it to its ultimate lair, I don't think. So I'm afraid we'll have to revisit that one in future. That's what I've been doing. What have you been doing at NDSU Press, Dr. Kay?
Well, we're getting ready to print our 8th chapbook on letterpress printing equipment. I see Clarence is out there. He had his hands in on that.
Oh, he did.
So, and actually his shop provided donuts and coffee. And so
Clarence was the printer's devil in that episode, as I recall, with the emphasis on the devil part.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow the students are working in shifts at the Hunter Times, which is a museum building located at Bonanzaville, a complex of museum buildings. So that's where they'll get their first hands-on training for how to use a letterpress, a Chandler and Price letterpress equipment. Oh, Amanda's out there too. She's been building chapbooks.
She's still washing the ink off.
Maybe so. So we will do that tomorrow, just printing the covers, and then in early October we're going out to Braddock, North Dakota. Population, I think, 8 now. Except for when the...
8?
Yep. Except for when the threshing bee is going on, and then there's a few hundred maybe.
There's a good fall supper coming up in Braddock, however, at St. Catherine's, and people checked the Heritage Trails group in Facebook. They'll get the date. They serve chipped beef on toast there. I just get that. Nobody else does that.
But wouldn't happen to be the same weekend we're out there.
I don't think so, but we can check.
Yeah, that would be great. But we'll spend 3 days out there. It's Friday afternoon. And this time we're getting something new. Alan Burke, who has been our fearless leader out there, he's been presenting about Gutenberg. So he's got a whole lecture spiel put together. So we're going to have a lecture about...
Getting a little liberal artsy there, Ellen.
I don't know about liberal arts. It's more like a shrine to...
A shrine?
An homage to Gutenberg. Yeah.
Braddock's already got a couple of shrines.
Well, that's what we're up to at NDSU Press.
Well, then I think we should have a song dedicated to Alan and Leah Burke tonight.
Oh, okay.
And they've heard it before. You know the one I'm talking about. The Printer Subs Lament.
Yes.
Okay, folks, you got to bear with us on this. And if you're on a computer, it's easier. And if you're just on a phone, it's a little difficult. But if you got a computer screen there, scroll around on there and on the timeline where this
on the Plains
stream is appearing, you will find posted the text of this song as published in, what does it say there? Can you see?
Sorry, I was reading something from Nancy Kelly. What did you ask?
Where's it? Find the posting of this song. Go up on the upper tab there, and you'll see it.
Printer sub. All right, so I can see.
Where's it published?
Where is it published?
It says down at the bottom. Manhattan,
Kansas.
In what
At
year?
the Enterprise. Year not on here.
Yeah, down the bottom.
Down below, I see. 4th of July, 1879.
4th of July, 1879. Okay, there was some sleuthing going on. So I consulted with Alan about some details of the printer's trade in the 19th century, and also got a couple of tips from Dr. Kelly about the physical layout of this, and that was the breakthrough. What we have here is a ballad of a tramp printer. Whether it was really written by a tramp printer, maybe it's about a tramp printer, because tramp printers were substitute printers. They would be fill-ins. And I think they loomed large in the history of the newspapers of the pioneer time on the Great Plains, because there was a lot of churning, new papers popping up, declining, reopening in new places, moving from town to town, no stable staff, and they were depending on these guys who were riding the rails, and they'd come walking down from the rail yard to the newspaper office. "We got any work for me?" "Yeah, we're kind of behind." And they'd take them on a little while. And these guys got paid by the measurement of their string. The string was how much stuff they set in type at a given session. And the printer sub, in this case, a tramp printer we're definitely talking about here, he would often be working through the night when others were gone. Maybe a regular printer had gone home, referred to as the reg in the song, and the sub was there working when the reg was not at the table, you see, handling the setting time. Okay, so plot line. In the opening stanza, the sub, the tramp printer, has been a setting type there. "I labored hard the other night." He worked through a night, you see, while the reg was gone. Then the reg came back, the regular typesetter, and "I got tight." Okay, notoriously, the tramp printers would work a while, get a paycheck, and drink it up. So I set up a couple of drinks, my lad. I'll sell my string in the morning. Now, if you've got that text up there, when you look at that, you find there's some funny stuff going on. This guy's getting paid by the length of his string. There are a lot of extra quotation marks in there, what we would today call scare quotes, where you don't need them. "I labored hard the other night." "I labored hard"? Why? What's up with quotation marks? Extra characters, you see. He's extending the line. And one time after another, there's an extra space in there, or just extra punctuation. There are 3 stanzas, but in each case they put the chorus after the stanza. That's not how you print a ballad. You put it after the first stanza. But not if you're getting paid by how much type you set, you see. And then you look at the first line of the ballad. "Now I feel awfully, fearfully bad." Is it awfully bad? Is it fearfully bad? Or is it just bad? First thing you teach your beginning creative writers is get rid of those adverbs. Well, not if you're getting paid by how much type you set, you see. So he's sticking adverbs, he's sticking extra words in, he's sticking extra characters in, quotation marks, space, and most of all, you don't find an N space in here anymore. A character that's the width of a letter N, a spacer put into the line. You find nothing but M spaces, which are the width of a character. M makes a longer line, stretches out the copy. Okay, so the plot of this first stanza is he's been loading up his work with fluff, and he's got caught. "This thing of being a hungry sub is the worst, I believe, in the biz. At times it's a scratch to get some grub, but you know how it is. I labored hard the other night, and I got up a pretty good string. The wreck came back and I got tight, felt as rich as a king. Now I feel fearfully, awfully bad. This to me is a warning. So set up a couple of drinks, my lad, I'll sell my string in the morning. So he figures, yeah, he can go in and get paid for his work, but he's going to be let go because he's been caught by the reg padding his work, you see. And then he gets a little reflective in the next one. He talks about the drunk that he got on. But now he's sobering up and he's going to hit hard pan, that is, get down to the bottom, sobriety. But boy, he had a bad case of the Jim Jams. That's a 19th century term for, the shakes, right? This last old drunk that I tumbled on got nearly away with me. My nervous system was almost gone. I'm shaky yet, you see. Then I'll taper off now right away and come to good hard pan. I had the Jim Jams yesterday, was nearly a clean gone man. Now I feel awfully, fearfully bad. This to me is a warning. Set up a couple of drinks, my lad, I'll sell my string in the morning. Now the third and last stanza gets most technical at all. To set up the M's, 'tis very true, will always relieve a sub. That is, if you're sticking those M spaces in there unnecessarily, you're going to get fired. But now, to find a fellow who will set them up's the rub. Okay, you fire your tramp printer, who's going to set the type for you when you're behind? See? So he's posing this dilemma for the boss. He knows the rent's due the next morning. And so how can he then persuade the boss to keep him on? Well, he says, I'll make you a deal. One of us is going to have to face the landlord and come up with a story to stand him off. That's in his words in the ballad. And he says, I'll jeff the quads for you. Now the quads are larger spaces. And then they have a mark on one side of them. It's not a raised type, but a sort of mark saying, I think that's what should face forward. But it's not raised, it's just a mark. And you can throw those like dice, and you throw each competitor throws a certain number of quads like dice, and whoever has the most of those marks showing on the surface, on the right side up, wins the game. So I'll jeff the quads for you to see who's going to face off the landlord. Now to set up the M's, 'tis very true, will always relieve a sub. But now to find a fellow who will set 'em up's the rub. With stamps I can't come to the trough, but I'll tell you what I'll do. For who shall stand the landlord off? I'll jeff the quads with you. Now I feel awfully, fearfully bad. This to me is a warning. Set up a couple of drinks, my lad, I'll sell my string in the morning. So I know you're having lunch with Mr. Burke tomorrow.
I am, yes.
I suggest you might jeff the quads
Who's paying?
for the lunch tab.
Actually, I am indebted to him for many, many favors.
You and I both, Alan, many things.
Yeah.
As well as to Leah, who puts up with us.
Yes, indeed.
Great publisher in her own right. Okay, that's about as esoteric a ballad as we've ever presented here, I believe, Dr. K. But it's bona fide.
Yes. Okay.
Anybody acting up on the chat line?
Nobody acting up, but Ben Kabishta reports from the rice pudding booth at the street fair.
That's in Bismarck.
The rice pudding booth? That sounds like a good place to work.
He's working there?
Well, I assumed he was helping, but maybe he's on the receiving side. I don't know.
I bet he's on the receiving side.
And he mentions that he's there with Royanne Bold, who is the mom of the boys who wrote The Walk Across North Dakota. So there were 5 authors with that, 5 young people who hiked across the state of North Dakota. And he's Ben is there eating rice pudding, I guess, with their mom.
So often North Dakota does seem a little bit like a small town. 400 by 200.
I don't know. And I would be remiss not to mention some of the undercurrent talk here lamenting about what happened with Emporia State. So.
Well, I think our sympathies certainly go out to the people of Emporia. The community suffers from that.
Absolutely.
And particularly at an institution dear to my heart, Emporia State University, where I had my first real lasting job as a historian, and took part in sort of an efflorescence on that campus at the time.
How long did you work there?
11 years, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a substantial chunk of your life, and it kind of tears me up and tears me up with the layoffs that are going on there, which appear to have political motivation.
There may be a lot of people on here who don't know about what you're talking about.
You can check my Facebook page,
Okay.
and they'll see references to it.
Okay.
Sympathies to Max McCoy and the others who have just been basically
Chewed up.
tossed out. Oh, they'll serve out the year.
Oh, will they?
Yeah. Most all of them get to serve out the year. But when you say get to serve out the year, you see what kind of situation is that for them and their students. I don't know. Let's see what comes of that. Yeah. There may be some attorneys involved. What else do we know here? NDSU versus Arizona. Saturday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Central time. There are two wagers to make. Can Dr. Kelly and I stay awake till at 10 o'clock to watch this game?
Well, we have to stay awake at least that long because we're driving to the Flying Pig to watch the game.
There will be a nap involved, no doubt about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then appetizers at the Pig while we watch the game.
Sure. And a beverage, but not many. But the other question is, what's the final score? And all of you can feel free to post your own prognostications of what's a game of great interest here in North Dakota, and NDSU playing down in Arizona on Saturday night. I've made my prediction already. You heard it, right? What's yours?
I'm not predicting.
What a wind.
I'm in it for the appetizers. But since you're talking about late hours, you might make mention of how dark the windows are for this 115th
It was dark
program.
by the time we started here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the nature of our latitude here. It's getting away from us. Something we particularly want to talk about. You'll find this flyer posted again on the timeline where this program is running tonight, which depicts a couple old coots, me, and Dr. Charlie Barber, a notorious balladeer and raconteur from Bismarck, a retired scholar who didn't really know how to retire. He's written an opera. He'll be over here for the Northern Great Plains History Conference. And, the flyer gives you the dope on that. And what you find there is that next Friday, from 3:30 to 5, Dr. Barber and I will be swapping ballads at the Zanbros store on Broadway in Fargo. That will be next week's Willow Creek Folk School. So if you're around at 8 o'clock, you will find the recording of it there. But if you want to catch it live, you better come to this timeline at 3:30 p.m. next Friday. Did I explain that all right? Does that make sense?
You're doing it live at 3:30. It will replay at 8.
Charlie and I will be singing and yakking live at 3:30, and we're going to set up our Mevo operation there. And
do you have a time limit on your program?
it's scheduled from 3:30 to 5.
Okay.
Somebody may have to corral Charlie if I know. I'm really good about time limits.
When we go to conferences and Charlie Barber is there, you can open your windows that overlook the pool or whatever, and he'll be down there crooning late at night.
And the ladies are swooning. Just look at his picture, you can tell the ladies would be swooning, right? Oh my goodness. No, really looking forward to doing that. I don't know if I've ever done a full program of folk songs at the Zandbros. Maybe it's time.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think I have. Done all kinds of run and also presented all kinds of programs there, but not that. This is a satellite session of the Northern Great Plains History Conference, which my department is hosting here in Fargo. You can find information about that, follow the links on my timeline or on the Department of History, Philosophy, and Religious Studies timeline on Facebook. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and that's one thing. Is it the best thing? Well, you can be the judge. We're doing it. I think it'll be a hoot getting up. It's going to be like? It's going to be like in the old days when I used to sing with Bill Cook down in Kansas. I got no control of what happens at all. There we are. We have another celebration to offer tonight. We're celebrating the birthday of the daddy of the songcatchers of the Great Plains, John Lomax of Texas. And Dr. Kelly is going to be coming up here to channel John Lomax in a moment, if she can swing around and get in position. John Lomax, Cowboy Songs and Other Frontier Ballads, 1910, and then just lived a life of collecting ballads and folk songs of the Great Plains. Wrote an autobiography called Adventures of a Ballad Hunter, and there's
not much of the title to
a ratty old first edition there, but there it is. And Dr. K is going to read a section, and it comes to focus on one particular ballad, as I recall.
Ready?
John Lomax. Channel John.
The chapter is called Hunting Cowboy Songs. When in 1908, a check for $500 came from Harvard University for my first year as a Sheldon Fellow, I was the happiest person in the world. Never before at one time had I owned so much money that brought me both honor and responsibility. I was entirely free to spend it on running down the words and music of cowboy songs. In a glow of anticipation, I made plans to travel the following summer throughout the cattle country. It proved a long and hard road that I started on as I made my way, walking, on horseback, by buggy, by train and automobile, a tortuous journey that has since then wound 500,000 miles into every part of the United States. Very few of my associates in the University of Texas expressed sympathy or took the project seriously. For them, this crude product of the West had no interest, no value, no charm whatsoever. Governor Jim Ferguson quoted stanzas of my cowboy songs in political addresses to cheering crowds and sneered at the University of Texas for having me on its faculty, just as he sneered at a teacher of zoology, asserting repeatedly that this professor was trying to make wool grow on the backs of armadillos and thus bring down the price of sheep. Both of us were sorry fools to him. It was cowboy songs I most wished in those early days to round up and close herd. These I jotted down on a table in a saloon back room, scrawled on an envelope while squatting about a campfire near a chuck wagon, or caught behind the scenes of a bronco-busting outfit or rodeo. To capture the cowboy music proved an almost impossible task. The cowboys would simply wave away the large horn I carried and refused to sing into it. Not one song did I ever get from them except through the influence of generous amounts of whiskey, raw and straight from the bottle or jug. Once I was invited to speak at the Texas Cattlemen's Convention in San Antonio. To advertise my undertaking, I attempted to sing some of the tunes I wished to record from the trailmen. My poor efforts brought only derisive hoops. One belligerent cattleman arose and announced, "I've been singing them songs ever since I was a kid. Everybody knows 'em. Only a damn fool would spend his time trying to set 'em down. I move we adjourn." And adjourn they did to a convenient bar. One night in the back room of the White Elephant Saloon in Fort Worth, where I had cornered a bunch of Ediphone-shy cowboy singers, a cowboy said to the crowd, "I told the professor," that's what they jokingly called me, "that the old Chisholm Trail song was as long as the trail from Texas to Montana. I can sing 89 verses myself. Some of the verses would burn up his old horn, and anyhow, I'm not going to poke my face up to his blamed old horn and sing. The tune ain't much nohow." The tune wasn't much, but it suited the cowboy's work. He could sing it when he went dashing out to turn a runaway steer back to the herd, singing "Feet in the stirrups and seat in the saddle, and I hung and rattled with them longhorned cattle, Komataya yippee yippee yay yippee yay, Komataya yippee yippee yay." And he could sing it with a roaring chorus as the men sat about the campfire during the long winter evenings. "Back in the 70s, said another cowboy in the crowd, "we sang the old Chisholm Trail all the way from San Antonio to Dodge City. There was never a day that someone did not build a new verse." There is another Chisholm Trail tune, a quiet, jig-jiggy tune when a fellow was riding alone, scouting for drifting cattle, riding the line through lonely stretches of country. I finally persuaded one of the boys to sing it, but not for my recording machine. I learned the tune and later recorded it myself for the Folk Song Archive.
At the Library of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. K.
You're welcome.
It was a worthy channeling. Do you feel kind of envious of John Lomax?
I've hung around with cowboys before. I think I'm okay with that.
Well, I think without further ado, we should proceed to the old Chisholm Trail. Not physically, but in tune. This is one of those where I'll have to stop and shift in the middle of it. I'm not going to sing 89 verses like the cowboy did the Lomax, but I got about 20, huh?
All right.
Chosen for presentability. Come along, boys, and listen to my tale. I'll tell you of my troubles in the old Chisholm Trail. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Now I started up the trail October 23rd. Started up the trail with the two you heard. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Woke up one morning on the old Chisholm Trail, a rope in my hand and a cow by the tail. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Now old Ben Bolt was a blame good boss, but he'd go to see the gal on a soreback horse. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Yeah, old Ben Bolt was a fine old man. You can know where there was whiskey wherever he'd land. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Now my horse threw me off at a creek called Mud. My horse threw me off around the two you heard. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Last time I seen him, he was going like the devil, kicking up his heels and a running like the devil. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Now it's cloudy in the west and I'm looking like rain. My damned old slicker's in the wagon again. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. No chaps, no slicker, and it's pouring down rain. And I swear by God I'll never night hurt again. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay, yippee yay. Come a tie, yippee yippee yay. Last night I was on guard, and the leader broke the ranks. Hit my horse in the shoulders, and I spurred him in the flanks. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Well, the wind commenced to blow and the rain began to fall, and it looked like that we were going to lose them all. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Well, my feet in the stirrups and my seat in the saddle, and I hung in the rattle with the longhorn cattle. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay.
Did you need a page turner?
Actually, I probably sometimes do. Where the heck was I? Jumped in the saddle, grabbed hold of the horn. Best cowpuncher that ever was born. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Popped the strut in the stirrup and I gave a little yell, and the tail cattle broke and the leaders went to hell. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Well, I don't give a damn if they never do stop. I'll ride as long as an 8-day clock. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Foot in the stirrup, hand on the horn. Best damn cowboy ever was born. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Well, I heard it and I hollered and it done very well. And the boss said, boys, just let him go to hell. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Well, we hit Caldwell and we hit her on the fly, and we bedded down the cattle on the hill nearby. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. We rounded them up and we put them on the cars, and that was the last of the two bars. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Went to the wagon to get my roll. Come back to Texas, Dad burned my soul. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. And I'm going back to town to draw my money, going back home to see my honey. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Went to the boss to draw my roll, but he figured me out $7 in the hole. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Sell my outfit as soon as I can. Won't punch cattle for no damn man. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. With my knees in the saddle and my seat in the sky, I'll quit punching cows in the sweet by and by. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, come-a-tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. I counted 23 verses, and those were selected. Yeah, that will get you a fair ways up the trail.
I'm going to give everybody warning. I'm going to try to do one of these close-up shots.
Oh, production values entering here.
So don't slobber while you drink. See if that works. Oh yeah. It's you. It's a stellar professor.
Well,
practicing for the program with you and Charlie next Friday.
Yeah.
See how this works. I'll take a picture of our flowers too.
Lomax was the first of the great songcatchers on the Great Plains. Well, there was Jack Thorpe, but Lomax was the first of them that were trying to do it in any like a scholarly way as compared to commercial application. And there's a long line of them. I like to think I can pick up the thread of that here in the 21st century. But being aware of that lineage led to this ballad fairly early in the history of the Willow Creek Folk School, which names these balladeers. It names Jack Thorpe with his mandolin, John Lomax with his tweeds, because he has that master's from Harvard, you see. John Lomax and his tweeds. And George Will, up in the middle of North Dakota, up in Bismarck, gathering ballads and reporting them back to the Journal of American Folklore. Ed Piper down in the Iowa, South Dakota border country, a great ballad collector. George Milburn in the Indian Territory and Oklahoma, who would be down gathering the ballads in the railroad yards from the railroad personnel and from the hobos both. Frank Dobie on Waller Creek in Texas. Franz Rickaby in the Red River Valley up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, who died way too young. We've got a good ballad about him I trot out every now and then. Franz Rickaby collecting in the Northern Plains. Ina Sires and Myra Hall connecting in the Central Plains. Myra Hall from my native state of Kansas. America Paredes, correcting in the Rio Grande River Valley, collecting the Hispanic ballads, the corridos of the people in the border country. Carl Sandburg enters into this little ditty in kind of in a comic role. And then, of course, the key figure, my particular heroine among the songcatcher, Louise Pound of Nebraska, comes in a swing roll. Now we were camped upon the prairie about a century ago. The last roundup of the cowboy songs was on. For all the old song catchers came together one more time to round them up before they would be gone. There was Jack Thorpe with his mandolin, John Lomax in his tweeds, with a crew of ballad hunters riding hard. And a cylinder Victrola in the chuck wagon was stowed, just in case there was a ballad to record. We sent George Will up Big Muddy to comb the Missouri breaks. Ed Piper worked the Big Sioux Valley hard. In the Indian Territory, George Milburn rode the rails through the hobo jungles and the railroad yards. Frank Dobie scouted the Waller Creek, Franz Rickaby the Red, while from the River Platte to the Rio Grande, Ina Sires and Myra Hall teamed up to ride until they met Americo Paredes with his pistol in his hand. Now we gathered all the ballads on a bed ground chosen well, there to sort them out and decide which ones to keep. But the songs refused to rest, for a storm was coming on. We sent Sandburg out to sing them all to sleep. Oh, the ballads, they were restless, and as the thunder rolled, Sandburg singing seemed to do no good. Sure enough, they started running when the lightning come around, and the riders all turned out just like they should. Well, we all hung with the herd, but we could not make them turn. Lomax shouted, "Someone go get Dr. Pound." Oh, she wasn't much of a rider, but even just on foot, she was faster than any man or beast around. She got out front of the leaders with her 9-iron in her hand, and she dropped the first one right there where he stood. But all the rest run by her, and she shouted, "Let 'em run. These are free-range ballads. It'll do 'em good." Now, some of those damn ballads would be gentle for to ride, and they came to love a winter in the hay. But the rest of them are running on the prairies that they love, and they have not been confined to this very day. You can love them, you can sing them, you can analyze them too. You can catalog and digitize them all, but never try to tame them, or they soon will pine away. And then we'll have no ballads left at all. For the deer and the antelope play, the seldom heard a disco Missouri about a century ago. The lines around the boat, the cowboy song was on. For all the old songcatchers came together one more time to round them up before they're gone. Where the deer and the antelope play, Dr. Kelly.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.